These lunch and learns I'm going to try to do once every 2 months. And at the end, I'm going to give you guys kind of a questionnaire. And if there's topics you guys want us to talk about, we're basically here to educate, whether it's our PNC clients, whether it's our employee benefits clients, or whether it's people we're trying to get to our employee benefits. We're just here to kind of spread the word because one of the fun things is things are kind of changing. You know, I think from 2000 to 2010, things were, you know, pretty much the same. You know, you have 4 carriers you quote, you do so on and so forth, and here we go. And the brokers really had a tougher time differentiating themselves because the information really wasn't changing. As we know, since 2010, the information is changing quite a bit. And then obviously with some of the new information we've gotten as of yesterday, this is good timing to have this today. So Jacqueline and I kind of get started. So sometimes I may procrastinate a little bit more than I'd like to, and Kathi always staying on top of me, which is great. She's like, "Hey Brian, when are we going to point out?" So we sat and without just kind of information, and a lot of it is technical things. So I think a lot of this is a little bit easier to understand. And this was the first slide we didn't switch. So January 20th, President Trump came out with the executive order, pretty much putting people on notice that, hey, we're going to do something with the Affordable Care Act, whether it's, you know, I've heard repeal, replace, repeal, repair, stuff like that. But he pretty much came out with a pretty vague notion that, hey, some changes are coming up. And he did that through the budget reconciliation. The budget reconciliation is basically the way that they can do it through government. They can't just say, okay, Affordable Care Act, such Obamacare is gone. They need to make kind of tweaks to the current kind of law. We'll talk about NAHU, National Association of Health Underwriters. I actually sit on the board of my local chapter of the National Association of Health Underwriters. We actually went to Washington with about 1,000 brokers about a month ago, which was great timing too. We'll talk about some of the things that we did there and some of the approaches with that. Talk about the past, future of the Affordable Care Act. And then most of the things will be in the Affordable Care Act. In about 5-10 minutes, we'll talk about the Affordable Care Act has created some different avenues on how health insurance carriers kind of take a look at risk. We'll talk about some certain things that may help your certain companies with assessing your risk. I just went through that. That was kind of the executive order. You know, repeal, replace, repeal, repair. That was just the first slide that was actually made from the other presentation. So going back to the National Health Association Underwriters, one of the things I do like about the association is they really try to take a nonpartisan look. Now, if I was at the convention with about 1,000 or so brokers, I think 980 of them were glad to kind of look at the Affordable Care Act in the rearview mirror, and a lot of them want some changes to it. But the message from NAHU was pretty strong. And what we did at that convention is the government really does, our legislators don't really know what is going to work and what's not going to work. And this was a time for us to actually go up on Capitol Hill, and we met with a lot of the lobbyists. So we met with, not the lobbyists, we met with some of the Congress people. So we met with some of the senators, we met with, sometimes we'd get their aides, and we pretty much had 3 or 4 key talking points on what we wanted to really kind of get our message across. And the first message was really, we have to stabilize the individual market. I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware of the huge increases that we've seen on the individual market. 2 years ago, about 20, 30%. This year, 40, 50, 60% of the individual market. And one of the things as brokers is, yes, a lot of us do play in the individual market, but most of our revenue comes from the group health market. And we really feel that if the individual market keeps going the way it's going, it's really going to bleed in to the employer-sponsored plans, the group market, and it's really going to start tainting that pool as well. So the first thing they really want to do is to stabilize the individual health insurance market. One of the ways to do that they talked about, that you'll hear about, is these hybrid risk pools. What a hybrid risk pool is, if you guys are familiar with what the CHIP plan was, back in the day of pre-existing conditions, if you were a self-employed accountant and had diabetes, you could never really buy insurance from the major carriers. So you had to go through what's called the CHIP program, and the CHIP program, you know, it was fairly expensive for consumers, and the plans were, you know, good or decent, not perfect, But it did seem to work. So the people could have insurance and people weren't left uninsured. They could go through the CHIP program. The hybrid risk pool is going to be similar to the CHIP program. What they're going to do to really help ease some of the claim burden in the individual market is, and they're not much specifics, but they're going to take some of the high risk people and put them in these hybrid risk pools. That's going to look those high risk people out, is really going to help kind of keep the rates a little more flat on the individual market. One of the things that we want to talk to our Congress people about is to really get a tighter handle or rein on the open enrollment period, a special open enrollment period. So what that means is, what happened, and I don't think brokers were very surprised that this happened, is when people were able to, you can go on the plan, no pre-existing conditions, that's great. So when people would go on the plan, when people would get individual coverage, they can get it. But what happened in a lot of cases is people would go sign up for insurance, take care of whatever they need to take care of it, cancel that policy in March. And when they go buy insurance, open enrollment comes in again, January 2016, they'd sign up for insurance again, take care of what they need to take care of. 2 months later, they drop it. So one of the key things, and this kind of seeps into the pre-existing conversation. I really do not think there's any way we're going to go back to denying people for pre-existing coverages. There's been no talk of that. Politically, it'd be a nightmare. So there is really going to be no more pre-existing conditions. However, for people that have worked with group plans before, you probably remember continuous coverage. Something like that is going to happen in the individual market. So